All right, everyone, welcome back to yet another exciting episode of The Cloud is Calling. I'm super excited to be having one of our former colleagues from Trace 3, now current field CTO with Harness, Mr. Nick Durkin, joining me this morning. How are you, Nick?
Wonderful. And Derek, thank you so much for having us on. I know we tried to get this done a few times, but
we
we,
we've
we've
been we've
crossed a
been
few
going back
paths.
and forth. Yeah, we've been going back and forth. We've seen each other in person, and we've glad to kind of make this work virtually. You've been traveling, I've been traveling, but I think just getting us together is good fun. Excited to be chatting with you today about I think a topic that's very much inside of your wheelhouse and DevOps and overall security as it relates to pipelines. And we kind of touched on this subject a few times when you and I have just kind of chatted offhandedly. And I, I think as big waves, from the security space have been happening, they've kind of had this somewhat ripple effect over in the DevOps world. Give me your thoughts on, kind of what you're seeing as it relates to the consolidation we're seeing in the cloud security space and how you feel that's impacting the application delivery side of the equation.
Sure. No, I think it's interesting, and I think this is near and dear to my heart. So thank you for. It's a topic that I love. I'm passionate about. I came from the big banks, and everything we had to do securely. We had to do governed. We had to do audited. It had to be compliant. And everyone wants to go for velocity. So we start using our CI tools. We start using open source tools, and we try to deliver software faster. Everybody wants to get it out quicker. They want to get to the customer quicker, right? Be able to make those quick adjustments. And what we find is that people achieve that quite quickly. And the issue then becomes, how do we actually govern this? How do we secure it? And traditionally, folks will get back into the same place they were before, which is I'm going to go script everything. I'm gonna have to write every possible rule of what you can't do, and I have to know what you can do so that I can stop it. And it just becomes almost untenable. And this is the thing that I find interesting is in order for continuous delivery to truly work, in order for the software delivery lifecycle to be truly automated, I think we have to look at security and governance and compliance as a mainstay, as a tenant, as something equally as important as the actual software delivery, and not by actually shifting the workload and putting that burden on engineers, but more importantly, allowing security to come to the table and operate, with equal footing. And so really empower security teams to write the rules that give people the guardrails to make sure, hey, you can get to production anytime you want, as long as you follow, X, Y, and Z, as long as you do these scans, as long as they come back with those results, as long as you have certain approvals, different things are sitting in UAT and been tested and then run to prod. All these rules should be codified, and so that way we don't have this contentious nature between security and engineering. The intention is truly to empower every team to actually operate in the same system. And so whether you're using something like Harness or any platform that you're building software on, that should be the goal, I believe.
No, I honestly think that is truly the goal. And I'm wondering if companies are kind of struggling, right? And as we look at how organizations are kind of building this out, and we try to invite every stakeholder to the table and say, okay, here's what we're trying to do, here's the transformation we're trying to achieve. Do you find that as companies are trying to achieve this velocity and whatnot, the biggest impediment ends up being more of a culture thing, or do you think it's something else?
I think at the end of the day, I think when it comes to software delivery, people talk about people process tooling or people process technology. And I genuinely don't think any of that matters. And I'll make a bold statement. I think it's crap. I think it's all about confidence. And whether it's an individual that's actually getting your deployments out, whether it's a process that's been laid out that people follow, or whether it's tooling, um, I don't think anyone cares as long as they're confident that it'll deploy appropriately. And then, God forbid, something breaks, it'll get you back to where you were before you started. And I think that's the interesting part is, okay, it could be the people, it could be the process, it could be the tooling. What we do find is that no one likes to be beaten with a stick and told they have to go do some new software delivery. They have to do some new tool or some new process. What we find is that when people realize they could use tooling, they could use a new process, they could use different things to actually achieve greatness, they actually want to come, right? So it becomes a carrot and not a stick. And I think that's the important part. If you want to change culture, you won't do it with a stick, right? You can look on every resume that anyone who's built a like a continuous delivery system, and they'll all brag about that, but none of them will say I operated it for 4 years, right? Because at some point you've beaten these guys with a stick so much that they
Yeah.
go switch jobs. And so I think in order to actually get so to answer your question, to get to the culture piece, I think it has to be delivered in a way that people want to adopt whatever change that is. It can't be one that's forced upon people because that causes, again, that contention that we
Intention.
genuinely don't want
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, no, I think that's we're seeing organizations have more success, right, with the carrot versus the stick, and we see that the carrot tends to be winning out a lot more. Do we still see the stick? Yes, right? You might have some new
I,
executive, some new leadership come in and say, "Okay, this is how we're doing it. We're going to use this." Period, right? I'm not changing that. And sometimes that's well received, and other times it's, it does. It's right. It causes that contention that you're talking about, and other people are like, "Oh, like whatever." Though we do see the flip side in that I think in a lot of organizations where there is no direction, there is no kind of path forward, right? Somebody to come in and says, "Yeah, this is what we're doing. We're using this," right? Some people gravitate towards that. So, from a perspective of a hybrid approach, do you feel it's better to lead with hybrid, or do you feel like it's better to dangle a little bit more of the carrot or use the stick a little more when it comes to adopting application delivery velocity?
sure. I think you can force this with a large stick, and you can make people do what you want. And again, people will fall in line, but that doesn't necessarily make them happy. It also will constantly have them searching for something new to do it the way that they would like to. And what we've seen most successful, it's an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time it's a carrot, right? If you remove the worst part of someone's job, I don't care what job they have, if you remove the worst part of it, who wouldn't be happy? And so I've got two options here. One where you got to do a ton of work you hate, and one that you can remove all the work you hate. You're going to choose that one every time, and that's the carrot. And look, I don't there are those corner cases where I want to do it very specifically. I want to do it, super custom. We're different. You don't understand. And for those, sometimes, in that 20%, maybe it's just a large carrot shaped stick, right? Like just dangle the carrot if it doesn't
I'm
work.
now I'm now picturing an orange
Yeah, it's like a
stick.
big paddle. Exactly. Yep. I'm gonna hang it, just like the principal
Yeah,
did.
we can just hang
I'll
it.
put the
Yeah,
huge carrot right there.
there you
Like
go.
agree with me or you get the carrot.
Yeah,
No, I think that's what we see successfully because when you watch your best teams adopt something because it's making their life easier, who doesn't want to follow that?
yeah.
You go to a company, you've got the highest performing team. You remove their worst part of their job. You make their lives easier. You give them their nights and weekends back. And if you think that the rest of the teams aren't going to want to follow suit, you're crazy. And that's
Yeah.
what we see successfully. And that's why, we've been massively successful at Harness because we go in and we solve a pain point that's genuinely hurting the business, whether it's the velocity, the governance, the quality issues. I mean, even sometimes, the massive sprawl and kind of the efficiency issues. We'll go in and help that for one team. And then once people realize, wait, I can do that too, it becomes a domino effect. And genuinely, that's how you get sticky. If you don't do it well, if you don't remove some part of the job, it's just another thing they have to do, and you don't want to add more burden. I talk a ton about we've shifted too much of the workload left, and I think that's become a huge burden on people. Engineers are having to do way too much now. Let's not shift the burden left. Let's shift the information left. Let's give them
Mhm.
all the information now, so that again, make their lives easier, not harder.
Yeah. No, I think it boils back down to this old philosophy, and I know my dad used to always tell me this when I grew up as a kid. Keep it simple, right? I think the more complicated, right, the more tooling, the more whatever you kind of compile on a lot of people, you're right, they get stressed out, they feel overburdened, and their mind is just in a thousand different directions. And if I could remove, answering emails all day from my job, heck yeah. Like,
Right? Remove that worst part.
remove, yeah.
Jyoti's put out a survey. So our CEO put out a survey
Mhm.
to all of his engineering buddies, and we asked what percentage of time people are actually spending writing code. So to the engineers out there, what percentage
Yeah.
of time? And what was amazing is over 50% of the people were spending less than 3 hours a day writing code. Like their entire job is supposed to be to write code, and they're spending less than 3 hours a day doing it. And it's because we've got our electricians doing our plumbing, we've got our plumbers doing our electrical. And what's interesting in those businesses, if I went to the same financial institution or the same healthcare and I said, oh, okay, you're traders, massively
Yeah.
valuable.
Yep.
Instead of having them trade, like, why don't I have them build pipelines? Why don't I have them, configure networks? In no way, shape, or form would they ever even think about it. In fact,
Yeah.
they're going to staff 20 people to make sure that trader can do everything they can do appropriately. And our goal is actually to give that same
Feeling.
care to the
Yeah.
engineers. Like, I want to make sure you can do what you're phenomenal at, and I want to give you all the support you need. I want to let security do what it needs to do. I want to let operations do what they need to do. Let security write the rules. Hey, here's how you can get to production, and here's all the ways to do it. Let the infrastructure and the operations team define, hey, where am I allowed to deploy? Here in QA, there in production, different clouds. Let your DevOps team write how you get there, right? Here's your templates how you get there. And as a developer, I should never see the platform. I don't care if it's Harness or whatever. I should never see that platform at all unless something goes wrong. And if something goes wrong, then I want to be able to be presented every piece of information I need to solve it. That's all I want.
Yeah.
And that's our goal. Again, bring that information left. Bring that information to the developer when they need it. But honestly, if things are going smoothly, they should never see it.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. As you know, I'm a big proponent of having all that information out of the gate. As it relates to getting all that data for the developers, helping them really kind of excel at what they're doing. I want to bring it back to kind of this market consolidation that we're seeing. And we know there's a lot of great point security solutions. And I know Harness has a great kind of orchestration security solution around that. From a just kind of high level perspective, are you seeing customers starting to kind of naturally consolidate their tooling internally, or are you still seeing, hey, even though it's maybe not a platform, it's still best of breed, and I'll just kind of figure out a way to cobble it all together? What are you seeing out there versus what? Yeah, I think hopefully all of us are reading the
Yeah,
tea
no,
leaves.
no, I think it's a great question. So what we're seeing is in certain areas. So if you look at the software delivery lifecycle and the CI, the CD, the feature flag, people are trying to do this as one platform. So they're trying to aggregate under one platform. So you have one role-based access control, you have one audit trail, you have governance over the entire thing. This is what becomes beneficial. But when it comes to the security scanning tools, this is the interesting thing. I genuinely thought people would start leaning towards a subset and really start taming down. But what we found, I've never been to a company that has less than 5 scanners,
Hmm.
whether a combination of open source and closed source and paid for products. But, they're going to use the best tool for the language specific, for, the artifact specific. So they're going to use a different subset of tools to do all that. And what's interesting, that's one area where I haven't seen consolidation of the tooling. But what
Hmm.
people want to do, and you brought up this point, is they do want to aggregate those results. They do want those results normalized. They want them deduplicated. And what we see is, large teams at these companies, they'll have to go take the output from all 7, 8, 10 of those different tools. And now I have to figure out, okay, which ones are the ones we know about? Which ones are the ones that we should be worrying about? Oh, hey, wait, I'm seeing one here. I'm also seeing it there. Like they're manually putting this in a spreadsheet. And if you don't believe me, like go look at how this is done.
Oh, believe me, I believe you. I
It
Spreadsheets just will never go away.
They will not, look. Excel's going to be here for life, right? That and
Yeah.
the mainframe. I think you're just stuck with them, right?
I now have a new idea for a shirt because of you. I'm gonna make one that says Excel for life.
Excel for life. It. I mean, how many times have you taken all that data? It's in some beautiful, you're like, you know what, just put an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah,
I'm going to do
just put
some
it in
pivot
spreadsheets.
tables.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, this is where it gets interesting. Is if you can actually provide that information. Again, worst part of someone's job. Worst part is aggregating that information, normalizing, deduplicating. Also, by the way, the time that it took you to do that and get it back to an engineer to go do work so that they know what they should be doing and what they should be removing, it's already 2 weeks too late.
Yeah.
Like you've been sitting on a
Two
on a
weeks.
critical two. I mean, yeah, right. Like
You're being honest. I'd say like 2 months.
right. Log4j took quite a lot of time for a lot of people, and that one was done with urgency. Imagine all the other
Yeah.
ones that are not as urgent. And so now instead of that, I should go look when I run the scan. I should know all of those CVEs that engineering or security has said, hey, these are okay. Like we've accepted the risk. We know why. We've put a time and date on it. It's okay. Or we're fixing them. We're waiting for the customer, whatever it is. So I should only be alerted on the ones that we just introduced. Like that's what I should be worrying about, not filtering all the noise. I should get just to the signal. And that's the intention. Like I said, with everything that we do, I want to remove the worst part of people's jobs. A lot of people are building AI that unfortunately challenges folks by taking away the best part of their job. Like
Yeah.
every engineer I know loves to write code, and there's a ton of AI out there that's really trying to take that job. But no one
Write
loves
code for
babysitting
you.
deployments,
Yeah.
right? Or write code for you. And no one loves
Mhm.
babysitting deployments. No one loves waiting for their test to run. No one loves aggregating security logs. No one loves turning on and off non-production infrastructure when it's needed. Let tooling help in that area so you don't have to. And now you can go do what you're best at, right? No single company on the planet that is a financial institution or a telco or doing business in the real world is going to make their stock price go higher by creating their own software delivery system, creating their own aggregator for security output. Like no one's going to pay more for your stock for that. So let tooling handle it for you. Make your employees happier. At the end of the day, right? Do what's right for the business.
Yeah. No, I got probably the best piece of advice, and I think we've heard this throughout the business, right? Old VP told me the story of like, hey, she went to go interview, or his daughter went to go interview for a job. The interviewer asked his daughter, like, as a manager, like, what is your goal? And she said, to make my team happy. And he's like, no, it's to make your customers happy. And she's like, no, I make my team happy so that in turn makes my customers happy.
Yep.
So
Thinking about it from the point of the actual people, right?
yeah,
The people that we can interact with, and it's contagious,
it is.
right?
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
contagious. If you're happy, you're going to make others happy. If you're beaten down, and that literally rolls off.
yeah, I mean, I think just from a natural perspective, right? As we've talked about culture, we talk about security. People naturally gravitate towards the team or the people or the group that looks like, hey, they're having a lot of fun. They look like they're doing some really cool stuff, and they're going out and solving these really awesome challenges. And oh, at the same time, they're getting to do you know off hours fun things. And you're like, hey, I want to be a part of that group. I want to do what they're doing because you know
When
that's
I'm
what
sitting here
I
deploying software on the weekend, they're out partying and having fun because
exactly.
they've
They're
automated.
out, yeah, they're out enjoying themselves at like some game arcade, and you're stuck at home typing away.
That's it. But I mean, that's the carrot. Like,
Yeah,
again, show people it's possible. That's the other part of it too. I think sometimes when you come with a stake, even if you know it's possible, if you haven't wrapped people's heads around it, if you haven't got them to buy into it, they're going to fight you. But if you just show them, like, just go do it. And then they're like, oh, maybe I should try it.
it's true.
And again, sometimes you have to use that carrot shaped stick. But
Sometimes you do.
most of the time, that's enough to drive people. You remove the worst part of their job, they're on board.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think with that said, we'll leave it at that. I think as it comes to DevOps and it comes to security, right? Being able to take, like you said, that confidence, being able to take, I think, the first step and know that what you're doing is going to work. And even if it's going to fail, right? That there's something in place to bring it back, be able to tell you what's wrong. And to your point, I think that really resonates, is having not necessarily that people process technology, but I think that overall the high message is if I'm a VP, if I'm a director, if I'm confident in my software delivery process, I can go ahead and hit deploy. You know what? If it doesn't work, that's fine. There's something to fix that. And if it deploys, great. I never see it, right? It just does what I need it to do. I can go enjoy time with my family, my friends, right? Celebrate with my team, do whatever. No, that's really awesome stuff. Nick, thank you so much for being here. Pleasure to finally get this
Always
together.
appreciate it.
Always
Yes,
a
thank you
pleasure.
so much.
I'm sure
Um,
we will see each other again soon, sometime in person. Any final parting thoughts? Can be whatever.
Sure. No, honestly, thank you for having me on. Thank you for allowing us to talk about this. I think it is something impactful. I think it's something that people should try. And by the way, whether you do this with Harness, which you can get to at harness.io, you can download it and try it for free, or whether you're doing this with any platform, software delivery platform, again, help your team succeed, and they'll bring people with them. And I think that's really the end goal. I want to see every developer, every engineer on this planet really get back to what they love. I want to let every operations person, every infrastructure person do what they love. Security teams to remove the contention. And if we can do that, I think we win. So thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Genuinely appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Nick, always a pleasure. And thank you so much for joining me. And to all of you out there, thank you for tuning in. And remember, folks, the cloud is calling.